Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the City of Muskego Emerald Park Landfill Standing Committee. Would the secretary please read the roll?
All right, one thing before we start, just to let you know, you got to use this microphone. If anyone's here out in the crowd, I will put it down. You can take it back to your seat, but for the main people to do it, make sure all your microphones are on for the individual people in front of you. And I think we're all set, ready to go. Yep. One other thing too, I believe a lot of you did not get paid, like as most of you from the last time. So after this meeting, you'll be getting your 2 checks. Is that correct, Wendy? So just to let you know too, we didn't forget about it. All right, roll call. Annalise Smith.
Present.
Patrick Murray.
Here.
Mark Slocum.
Here.
Michael Calling. Absent. Harvey Swisher.
Here.
Scott Krieger. Here. Alderman Eileen Madden.
Here.
Greg Burmeister. Absent.
Absent.
Roland Kiefer.
Here.
Jay Warsnecki from Advance. Absent. Jake. Here. I'm not pronounced. There we go. Joe Spears.
Here.
And just for the record, the 2 other people, Tyler Field from Tetra Tech, which he signed in, and Chad Siegel from Emerald Park. Statement of public notice, this meeting has been posted according to Wisconsin open record laws.
Approval of the minutes of the January 6, 2020 meeting. How do you wish to move?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Corrections, addition, discussion? I have one thing, and that is on page 2, next to the last paragraph on the bottom, second sentence where it says Mr. Slocum talked about his discussions with the Franklin landfill managers. That should be Franklin Landfill Committee Chairman. Any objection to that correction? All those in favor of the minutes as corrected signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The minutes are accepted unanimously. Open forum. We have no one here from the public at this time. Compliance officer report.
So we've continued our weekly audits, starting out with the odor issues. I'm going to skip the discussion on the NON, NOV, and the leachate so that Advance can bring that forward. We've had 91 complaints to the half year from one individual. There are other complaints on the same days. We're not getting as many people calling in, but Ryan seems to be quite capable of calling in whenever there's a problem. And Harvey, I kind of reinitiated because he had dropped off. There haven't been any complaints since last Wednesday. Most of the seep repairs were completed the last time I was out, including 2 along the access road. I believe that's a great source of odor and so on. That should make quite a difference. The site's still pumping down their leachate, and they've halted their liquid loads, which has to do with the leachate issue as well. And the e-waste container's been bumped up to a higher frequency, which that's the one thing the city's paying for. The e-waste coming in is rather excessive. And JSA has been on top of the audits this year, so everybody should be getting the summary and so on every week. I've been distributing them out to Scott.
Questions? Okay. Status of projects. Jake, this is where you're going to come in to answer a whole bunch of questions.
Grab it, just take it back to the chair. It's a lot easier.
First one, clay extraction.
Currently just for daily cover, intermediate cover. There's no other clay extraction going on, just what we're using for cover on the side slopes in the active area.
Any planned?
No, there's no other plan to mass move any. We do have a relocation of the compost pile area, so there will be some movement for that when that comes up.
Okay. Wait a minute, I think I'm going to skip that since Jake's got the microphone. MMSD project that has to do with the gas plant and any issues from the gas plant to MMSD.
Currently, we are sending. It's been kind of on again, off again. There's been times where we weren't, times we are. They had an issue with one of their processes on their end that we had to stop sending for a while. And we've had a couple times where we've hit some gas lines out in the well field when we're doing some seep repairs that caused us to not be able to send at that time too. But for the most part, we are sending majority of the time now.
What happens on their end when you stop sending?
Scott, the landfill gas operator, notifies them, hey, this is what we got going on, kind of gives them a estimated time frame on repairs, when we're looking at being able to get back up and going again. What I've seen, we flare off at that time because we're higher oxygen, lower methane, so we still continue to collect gas as much as we can, just sometimes at a lower capacity and burn it off through the flare.
Okay, so it's all burned off, none of it escapes to the atmosphere.
Like if we hit a gas well, we'll isolate that area so we can at least still run the collection system as efficiently as we can with that damage being done to that area.
Okay, questions on? Electronic recycling?
Yeah, since I've been down there, I've seen that, there's quite a bit that comes in. I had talked to the collector. They were coming bi-weekly. They're coming once a week now. They did come twice a week, like 1 or 2 weeks possibly, but they're just trying to keep up with it. Kind of seen that across the board. There's just a lot of electronics coming in everywhere right now.
Okay. Residential drop-off site?
So currently it's as is. We've got the other site pretty well ready to go. Previously, we were kind of waiting for the compost to get redirected over that way too, but we might move that sooner than later. We're kind of going to leave that up to management if they want to do it right away, when they kind of want to make that transition. But we're kind of ready to take that step to move those containers over to the new area to kind of segregate some of that traffic from a safety standpoint on Friday. I don't even want to say afternoons, late mornings through Saturday.
Any questions? Okay, well testing for well water protection area?
I don't really have an update on that. I believe ESC kind of spearheads that one, and I think they did that earlier in the year.
They were here at last meeting letting us know that they were sending out information to various constituents in the area, but I don't know if they've finished up with their collection and their testing yet.
I'd have to check with Frank with ESC, but to my knowledge, there hasn't been any issues. So I assume that they probably finished their collecting, but I don't want to say that for sure without checking with him.
Okay. Plan modification issues, do you have any currently in place, and do you have any planned?
We currently don't, but Tetra Tech will be submitting one shortly. We're looking at using some recycled glass as some alternative daily cover to try to keep some of the clay soils out of landfill to promote the health of the landfill. That should be going in within the next week or so.
Okay, based on what you've been saying, you're not able to get any foundry sand or shredder fluff for your daily cover?
Shredder fluff will be coming. We're hoping within the next couple weeks as well. There won't be a plan mod for that one since that's already approved and that source is already approved. But it is alter recycling. It's been in the works for a little bit. I believe, from what I understand, that some of it's slowed down kind of due to the COVID, but that's ramping up, and we're hoping to see that within the next couple weeks to the month, which will be a huge benefit for the landfill, for the driving surface and flowing of the leachate through. It's better than a clay cover for the actual driving surface, especially when we get weather like we have out there right now.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the glass?
So the glass, a lot of sites have a recycled glass as an approved daily cover. They're source specific, so that's why we have to submit the plan mod. But it's kind of like the dirty glass, if you will. It's what can be recycled, but it's kind of like the rejects of it. It's not the best product, so we can put it down to kind of cover the working face. It's dense, so it makes a pretty good cover that way, and it's not plugging up the landfill either. And it's a waste stream, so I mean, it's good that way.
So it's like glass coming out of the recycling.
Correct.
Which has not been cleaned and.
Yep, it's got some labels on it yet and stuff. It's a little bit dirtier material, but it's still recycled glass. It's crushed up. It's dense. It'll help hold the paper and plastic and stuff like that down. It makes a pretty decent cover. It kind of compacts well in there as well.
Okay, thanks.
Where would you be sourcing the glass from?
John's Disposal is the source right now.
I should apologize. I should have introduced you at the beginning of this meeting. Jake is replacing Mike Hackney at Advanced Disposal. And Jake, I'll let you tell where you came from in your experience, please.
Yeah, so I'm filling on a temporary basis for Mike. They are hiring a general manager for the location and for another location as Mike was in the past. They are going to have a site-specific operations manager, not one that'll float back and forth, and it's actually Chad who's on the other end of the room down there. But I come from Advanced. I've been with Advanced for 16 years. I am the operations manager at the landfill in Horicon, Glacier Ridge landfill. So I've been in the waste. I went to college for environmental sciences, but been in the waste industry for a while. I have some familiarity with Emerald Park. I used to come down and help out operating and on some projects that they had, so I was familiar with the site from a broader perspective before coming down this last month here.
And when does Chad take over?
So Chad's currently doing the operations manager job now, and he's doing it at Mallard Ridge as well. But they have hired a specific manager for Mallard Ridge as the ops manager, so Chad can solely focus on Emerald Park. And then they have a general manager that I'm not exactly sure when is starting, but should be July 6th, be coming up.
For Emerald Park?
For Emerald Park, and he'll oversee Mallard Ridge from a general manager perspective and a closed site, Valley Meadows, which is what Mike had originally. But having a site-specific operations manager will definitely help as well, instead of somebody that's floating back and forth. And I'll continue to come down as long as I'm asked.
Property protection, sociological. Are you familiar with that program?
Yeah, I read through it a little bit in the host agreement. I know Tyler with Tetra Tech here is a little more familiar with it because he's been the engineer for the site for a while, so he knows that you did go through one with the property protection plan earlier this year, I believe.
Okay, you said one property was, you kind of need the microphone. Sorry.
Yeah, I was working with Mike. We did the survey on one property that was being purchased under the property value protection plan. I believe that was in February that he had us do the survey of that property. I don't remember the name of it, but that was being purchased under the property value protection plan.
And you've received no other notification?
No other notifications, nope.
Okay. And
Do you know the location of it, even if you don't?
It was on Union Church.
Oh, on Union Church,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I can look up the name for you guys. I can find the name of the property for you if you need it for your meeting minutes.
Okay.
are you going to be handling the property protection?
No, the new general manager, who will start on July 6th, will handle that program.
Okay. Unless you have something more, you can give back the microphone. On those categories I've just gone through, is there anything else you'd like to add?
The household hazardous waste, I have been in contact. We're looking at, possibly adding that to the residential drop-off site when we move that. We'll go over that with the new GM. We've kind of ran it through some of the upper chains if they're okay with it. We haven't gotten all the feedback yet, but we've got some positive. They don't kind of see why not, so we're really kind of pushing for that. We're going to be moving anyways. It kind of seems like the right move. But I just want everybody to kind of sign off on it before I give it okay, especially since I'm not here permanently. So.
I think you popped Annalise's balloon.
I was going to say, you stole my, I was going to get them all to like me.
I think you can give back the microphone for the minute. New business? We have none listed. Continuing business?
Did you want me to do the rest of the
I'm
HHW?
sorry. Gee. Yes, household hazardous waste, yes.
So as many of you are aware, due to COVID-19, the sites were closed for a period of time. They are now up and running again. Year to date, we are down cost-wise 55%. However, I anticipate that will, they've had to do some extra staffing at the HHW sites just to kind of deal with the fact that everybody's been cleaning out their garages for the past few months. So I would anticipate that even though we are below where we were, significantly where we were below last year at this time, that will make that up and possibly then some. Last year, I also have the final annual report from 2019, and we did end up $10,000 over budget last year. The county was able to shift some things around and make that work, so we didn't have any closures last year. And I would anticipate that we'll be able to stay on target for this year, but it's going to be a very fluid situation moving into the fall. We were also noticed about a week before a site closed that we had an agreement in Muskego with a private company that was hosting every other weekend an HHW drop-off location, and they sold their business to another business that was not interested in continuing the agreement. And so at that time, I started reaching out to try to find a better longer term or another long-term partner for a site that would still be operative in this area. And so that's what we were talking about hopefully getting it at the landfill. I think people know the location. It's convenient for everybody. They might already be going to the landfill for other business. So there's a lot of synergies there. So hopefully we would need to do that, get that approved by amendment, probably at the next meeting, because it would be a contract amendment to list the sites, but we can start, I believe, operation before, with committee approval. I don't think we want to wait till October.
Would you still be going across the street then too?
So Franklin is also closing, and they gave us notice back in January, and that they are closing September 30th. So it would be just the one site.
Are we going to accept from Milwaukee County then, or is it going to be just?
This would just be Waukesha County. So for those that may not be aware, the Franklin site was co-used by MMSD's program as well as Waukesha County's. And this new agreement with the Emerald Park landfill would just be Waukesha County residents.
No, I don't think so. It'd be
Well, and
anybody that's affected, right?
correct.
Yes,
Yep.
Racine County.
Any allowed participants
Okay.
in the program.
In the program under the contract.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification.
No, this is not a new program to exclude you. Other questions of Annalise? Who's going to be potentially managing this? Before it was Superior Waste Services, right?
That is a while back, I believe. So now it's Veolia. And it
Okay,
would
Veolia.
still be Veolia.
It will still be Veolia.
Yeah, they just signed another huge contract extension with the state that the county also uses, so.
Okay, so there's no significant cost savings by going here, or is there?
There would not be significant cost savings, no. Short of having the savings from one less site.
You're gonna have to do as much packaging and moving, or can you consolidate so you get a complete truckload now?
That'll depend on what facilities we can have at the landfill. We haven't completely identified where the process will be taking place. So if there is place for storage, that would also be a potential cost savings if we could do some storage and bulking on site. But we're not, at this point, accounting for that savings. In the budget I put forward for the county budget, I haven't accounted for any of those savings just because we don't know yet.
I'm assuming the facility would be the old Briggs and Stratton building?
That's one of the ones we're talking about, yes. That's the current plan.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, continuing business. Update on odor complaints. Who wants to go on with this? We want Jake to start with what he's received so far?
Yeah, I think we
Why
should
doesn't
hear.
Jake do it? Because they've had a drone fly over, they've got, obviously, you should have results from that, I assume?
Sure.
Yeah, he would do that.
You'll need the, I should have made it permanent.
So yeah, we did perform, and the site has in the past, and it was the first time I seen it. It's actually pretty neat. They did do a drone flyover for surface emissions. I'd have to look up the exact date, but we did receive that preliminary data back, and there was some areas of concern. And they fly over with a drone, and it's got a tail on it that kind of goes around the whole site, and it shows you the coverage area. And then they manually go out and check any exceedances, penetrations, things like that while they're doing it. This wasn't the compliance surface emissions monitoring, just because the drone isn't technically approved for that yet. But they did do that, and it's neat. So it's a great tool. We're able to identify some areas that had issues. We were able to dig up, put bentonite around a lot of these penetrations where we had issues, identify some other areas, add some clay soils, things like that. We did perform the second quarter surface emissions monitoring on Friday. First, he canceled it because it was looking pretty threatening for rain, but he was able to get it in. A lot of that rain pushed off. We had 9 exceedances. Mostly all at penetrations of wells where the clay seals have kind of cracked a little bit. So we are currently working on repairing those, and they'll do the 10-day recheck on Monday, July 6th. In addition to that, like we had stated earlier, Joe had stated, we've been actively doing some seep repairs. There's a number of seeps, and it's kind of continually. We get a couple repaired, and then they kind of pop up a little bit further away, but they've been popping up at less frequency and less capacity, so we're definitely kind of getting a hold of them a lot better than we had. The only kind of downfall of that is a couple of times we have hit some underground gas piping while we've been digging those up to get them to drain better, but we've been able to repair those. So we've had the stuff on site for the most part to be able to get those fixed as soon as we could. Just kind of an inconvenience there. The site has stopped taking in liquids, so hopefully those seeps kind of really start to slow down and stop. But we got some good French drains in to get them to drain right back into the landfill instead of coming out the side. We got a guy that's dedicated to pump maintenance on the landfill gas extraction wells. That's mainly his sole focus of his job now, is pulling pumps that aren't working, getting them repaired, getting them replaced, getting them put back in to keep the perforated pipe in those gas extraction wells open. We also have hired Tetra Tech. They got a couple guys out there almost 24 hours a day. There's a little overlap where there isn't, but even on the weekends, and they're helping man the leachate extraction pumps to get the full amount out of the hill as possible through the pipeline. We have been trucking off as well, but hopefully we can kind of, slow down on that, and we're getting everything that we can through the pipeline. Leachate headwell levels are coming down, so that's a good sign.
New impellers were installed on the lift station pumps.
Yep, new impellers were installed. The results were very minimal gains. We're still only be able to send around that 100 gallons a minute to the actual lift station. So I'm not sure the next step's going to be. I know they were going to do a drawdown, but we haven't seen significant increases from that upgrade on the city's end yet.
Have they done the drawdown test yet?
I haven't seen any results from the drawdown, no. I believe they're going to be performing it this week is what we were originally told, the week of the 29th. So.
Okay. On sealing of the wells, you mentioned you're using bentonite?
Yeah, so the clay on site is great, but when it kind of gets dry for a while, we've noticed, a fair amount of big cracks, and it dries up pretty good. So Chad had some people out, and they dug around the wells, placed bentonite, and then hydrated it, which we do on normal well installation as well. We're just trying to do a little closer to the surface here to kind of help with those surface emissions and help with odors. We obviously seen some pretty good results from it, just judging by the drone survey compared to the walking surface scan, a week or two later. Definitely some improvements there, but we still got some work to do. But we just think that'll help keep that seal around that well better than just the clay. Once we get a dry period, that clay tends to crack and isn't as uniform all the way around the well as what we would like.
Do you know if bentonite was used in the past?
I know on well installation it is. I mean, it's standard practice, but I can't speak if it, was just randomly like we are now. To try to help out. But definitely when they do well installs, there's a bentonite seal that goes in.
And how deep does that seal go down?
Well, where we did it, we just went down a couple of feet and hydrated it towards the top. When we actually do a normal gas extraction well, we usually do it 4 feet below the surface.
Okay. You mentioned that you had just done the second quarter surface emission scan, and you had a number of issues that were over 500 part per million?
There was nine exceedances. So it's down from the previous one, I believe.
Actually, there's statements that you're using. Your emissions test, you were clean. The drone found 9 emissions. So what you submitted to the state was that you had done your follow-up after the corrections, and that you had taken care of around the vaults and so on, the 10 exceedances you had back in May. So the 9, I think you're calling from the drone. I just want to make sure we're using the right.
No, we had to perform another one.
Joe?
Okay.
The first quarter surface emission is what they have been working on correcting. This is the second quarter's surface emissions.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But how many hits did you get off of the drone flyover completing your first operation with the drone? You did the drone flyover in November, and then you did the follow-up just now.
I had never seen the November results. You know how many there were then. The only drone survey that I'd seen was the one when you guys were out.
Because of it. Other than that, I don't know.
What's that?
They put in 9 wells. Some were replacements and some were new.
Yeah, it was previous to me being at the site, so I don't have that survey. I could request it, but yeah, I do not have the results from that
But
November.
how many do you have in this last one?
The last one, there was a fair amount of areas of concern. A lot of them were the penetrations of the wells. An exact count, I do not know. I just seen the map, and it was kind of a hot area, and that's where we focused our attention to with the bentonite. more than 9. So we're definitely making improvements.
Okay. On the second quarter's surface emission scans that you just completed,
Yes, Friday.
that's the one that you had the 9 that were over the 500?
Yep, correct. Yep, Friday afternoon he was out. Did
Okay.
these. There's-
Any of those the same that were hit in the first quarter?
Do you know, Tyler? I do not know.
Two of the wells would have been the same, I believe 83 and 89 were hits in the first quarter, and we will be going back to those wells as soon as we can this week. And we'll do a better bentonite seal around the same way we did the rest of the south slope.
May I ask, what was the worst exceedance of the 9?
Yeah, I was actually working on that today. 2,200 parts per million. The next highest was 1,500 and 1,100, 875 in that range from what I have in my notes.
Okay.
Just being that when we drove around that one day, as you go around that one corner and start to head north, going up the hill, there's always been a bad area there.
Yeah, up the access road, we did fix a couple of seeps, and then Chad, since I'm not most familiar with the well numbers, I believe that's that area in between 89 and 90, possibly in between two. That was flagged with a scan with the surface emissions monitoring as well. So that was one of the areas.
And what are we going to attempt to do there?
There we've a lot of clay in the area in between. Some bentonite, but mostly a lot of clay in that area. Also, we've identified the wells near there, and he's focusing his pump operations to make sure those pumps are operational. And we made a priority list for him, which wells to focus on first. Get these, and these, to ensure that 50% of the screen's open so we can pull gas more effectively on those. We had a third party come in and actually raise one of the wells. They actually replaced one of the caissons because it was bowed pretty good, so we were sucking in oxygen, so we couldn't pull very hard on it. So we replaced the caisson with a new one so it could sit more flush so we could pull more vacuum on it, therefore increase the radiance of influence around that well to try to help with those odors.
Still having a lot of issue with the flooding out?
With the gas wells, with the perf pipe. It's an ongoing battle. Leachate's kind of hard on everything, so it's an ongoing thing to clean those pumps, to take them out, replace parts when they go bad. We ordered some replacement pumps so we could just swap them out, work on ones in the shop on a rain day, and just keep swapping them out and just keep them going. So it's never ending is probably the best word. It's an ongoing thing. I mean, you can drop 4 brand new ones down. How long they're going to last before you got to replace something on them is specific to each well. They all have their own tendencies.
By not taking liquid loads, is that going to work on alleviating some of that issue?
It'll definitely help, catch up with things. You won't have it all going in, so you can work better on getting it out, So hopefully it can get us a better chance to catch up on getting all those perfs open on those wells and keep ahead of it.
How are you clearing the screens?
So we have dual extraction wells, so we'll drop a pneumatic pump down, and it's some of them they got floats on them. So then the float goes up, it'll send the liquid the leachate right through to a force main down to the actual force main in this case. But those pumps, they do gum up, the floats, things like that. There's sensors in there that go bad over time. Sometimes the wells shift, they pinch, you can't get them out. That's why we had to do some of the re-drills, things like that. But yeah, it's a pump designed to go right down the well and extract the leachate out to keep that perf from being submerged.
So when you're talking about screen, you're talking about screen on the pump.
On the actual gas extraction well. So the gas extraction well's Schedule 80 PVC going down, then it's got perforated pipe, and the requirement we keep at least 50% of that screen open so it can collect the gas. If more of it's plugged up by water, you're not collecting a lot of the gas in that area then.
So it's water that's plugging it, not sediment or...
It can be both. You know, the well will silt in as well. That's a very good point. It does silt in, so then you keep your pump up a little higher just to keep out what you can. If it silts in too much or you can't keep 50% open, that's when you look into a re-drill as well, which definitely does happen.
Okay. And with all the leachate, are we pumping, trucking it offsite or force main or?
We're doing both. So we're doing force main, and that's why we've got Tetra Tech's people there. They're running the pumps, you know, even manually to try to get as much out as fast as we can to maximize the force main. But we're, as Mark had alluded to earlier, we're limited at about 100 gallons a minute going through that force main due to the lift station. So we are also trucking some off.
So what's your goal for a leachate level in the site?
The code is to be under 1 foot across the site for the leachate head wells. And we've been making very good progress at that recently. I didn't look at the numbers. I think that this month we're at like 2.3 million gallons, somewhere around there. That's gone through the force main in June here. So.
And your height is around 2 feet now, or?
3 million.
Yep.
It is 1 foot?
Yeah, we checked head wells on Friday, and we are down below 1 foot as an average across the whole site. Not every head well is below 1 foot. There are still 4 head wells that have elevations higher than 1 foot in each head well. But as far as the Wisconsin code is concerned, they want 1 foot across the entire base of the landfill. We are under that 1 foot. As opposed to when we did the initial evaluation in early May, it was closer to 6 feet. That average was closer to 6 feet, so we're under 1 foot there. So we've made good progress. All the vaults on the site, or the side slope risers where we extract the leachate from, are basically in a maintenance mode now. They're not in high level. We have to run a lot of them by hand just to pump them because they're actually in levels that are lower than the low level that the pump is set to. So that we're just trying to move as much water out of the site as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
What is your worst leachate head well?
Phase 6. The head wells in phase 6 are dropping slowest, at the slowest rate. I believe the last check was around 2.8 or 3 feet.
And that's the worst case situation?
That's the worst case right now, yes.
Okay, 2.8, 3 feet?
Yeah.
And which phase is active right now?
Probably right over phase 6. Where's where they're filling?
Okay.
Yeah. Would you agree, Chad? Yeah.
You're saying that you manually check these pumps or turn them on, off. What's the progress of getting that back to being automatic?
Like Tyler had said, they actually are all able to be in automatic. So since we have Cornerstone on site running them to maximize what we can get through that force main, basically almost 24/7, we're running them manually as well. So if they're not hitting that high set point where they would actually kick on and turn on, we're turning them on before that just so we can keep getting it out faster. But they all can be, there's been several days where if they're doing something else, they are running actually all in automatic. But in order to maximize what we're getting out so it can get out faster, we're running them manually as well. So they're running more often than what they would in automatic. It takes a little bit for some of them to kind of drain through, you pump it down. It's kind of got to fill up that sump a little bit again. So we're just trying to maximize it as much as possible. That's where Tyler was talking about maintenance mode, where they'll actually turn on and off by themselves.
Okay, but I'm not sure that was the question that
My
Harvey
question was,
had.
about a year or so ago, there was a tower that was struck by lightning, and the entire system was, once that was up and running, was going to be on an automatic mode. You'd be able to check the force main to make sure that you didn't flood it, as well as.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. They are all on automatic mode, but what you're asking is like the telemetry between them. I could give that to Tyler. That's kind of his.
Yeah, so actually, the quote the tower did get hit by lightning, and the controls were never installed for that, the radios. So those never were installed, just the radio tower was put up for the communication system. That project has moved forward. We've got an updated quote from the electricians and the capital approval process done with Advance to proceed with installing the radio communication at the vault locations, and we'll have communication with the city's lift station. That'll be able to turn the landfill pumps off if we would hit a high alarm in the city's lift station, which would then allow you to operate the entire landfill system in an automatic mode and leave things in auto. The fear has always been if we turn all the vaults to automatic, which they all can be done at the landfill. There's nothing to tell the landfill staff or the landfill operations when they would be exceeding the maximum capacity of the city's lift station, and you could end up with a discharge at the street there. So that the quote came back from the electricians yesterday. We'll get that in. I think it's 2 to 3 months to install those radios. There are some supply chain issues getting those radios and components in right now due to COVID. So there's a little bit of an extended time to do that. So.
And that's going to continue even with the new owner that's going to advance is putting that in, because.
Well, I can't speak for them. There's not going to be any new owner there for several months.
Well, you kind of
that's been extended out
for over a year to get this in.
Right.
No safety in place.
It's
So
for since the landfill was permitted. Yeah. It's never been there.
2 to 3 months
That's correct. That's what the electricians are
in
saying.
operational?
In and operational, yep.
Okay, backing up a little bit to this original item, update on odor complaints. What further are you doing? We're hearing some things that you have done already to help with odor issues, but what other further items are you doing to minimize this odor in the future so that we can get it down from, 3 or 4 times a week down to 1 or 2 times a month to once every 3 months type thing?
Yeah, it's like the stuff that we already kind of went through. We've been doing all that, and we're going to continue doing that. We're going to kind of make a new practice, to seal up around those as well as possible. Permanent role for the one technician is strictly the maintenance on the well, since that's an ongoing thing. We are looking at potentially some additional gas infrastructure if need be. We're evaluating that. If there's going to be need for any additional wells, new force main, anything that may have gotten compromised over the life of the landfill here. Even new stuff goes bad. So we're checking on that, making sure all the air and force main and everything like that's in working condition. We're dipping every well, checking to see if anything's broke integrity wise that needs a re-drill, or that we could add another well in that area. We're kind of evaluating every aspect of the gas system to make sure that we can collect as efficiently as we possibly can.
What do you think a timeline is, guesstimating, is when this odor thing is going to be behind us?
I mean, as I kind of stated earlier, the seep thing, we fix them, and it's a lot better, and they're a lot smaller volume as, what we seen originally. And without the additional liquids, that'll help us get ahead of that. But they do still pop up, so I can't say, hey, they're all done, As soon as you say that, one's going to pop up in another corner or something. I mean, it's just the way the landfill settles and then the soil's used, it just kind of happens. So I really wouldn't feel comfortable putting a drop dead date on that, because I wouldn't want you to call me a liar. But I can just assure that I know Chad knows it's a top priority as well. And odors are kind of number one on the thing, because we want to keep that down and just make the landfill run as efficiently as possible.
Because in the past, it just has appeared to me that they had a one-prong approach to figuring out this odor. They did they had the first problem was they were flooding out the pipes. They couldn't pump the gas wells because they were flooding out. Well, they never really got to the bottom of the liquid issue. We're still fighting with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's
drone.
another thing that is ongoing, with them shifting and not being able to get pumps out, having to look at regionals, but it's definitely on the forefront right now, and it's an extreme top priority. We're having calls on it every week just to update our higher ups on the status of the gas extraction system, of the leachate system, of everything like that. So, I mean, if it was on the back burner on the forefront before, it's definitely top tier right now. I can tell you that.
As a resident, I don't understand. I mean, we've been fighting with that for 3 years. And now it's on the front burner. Well, I guess it's easy to throw Mike under the bus because he's not here to defend himself, but.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to do that. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm just.
Where the corporation was on this, because they've, obviously liquid levels, they've kind of ignored. They've ignored the odor. And now you guys are falling into a bad situation.
And we're doing whatever we can to make it right. So.
My concern is that when we switch ownership, there's going to be, they're going to decide that, well, now we have to reevaluate. There's going to be a lag time before we get this thing resolved.
Kind of a little update on that. I don't know. Probably should have started with this a little bit, but the merger with Waste Management, that is kind of prolonged a little bit now. It now is set to close by September 30th, where it was supposed to be July. They did sign a continuation on that just last week, mid to late last week. So nothing really is going to kind of happen there for a little while from what we're told.
I guess just to kind of.
And at the same level, I mean, the same site management's going to be there. So I mean, it's not like it's just going to drop dead and, somebody else is kind of going to come in at the site level. It should be the same urgency for this topic.
I guess I'd like to entertain the ideas of looking at in the contract that Exhibit C, if when we get closer to September now, because and that Exhibit C is where the committee can submit and potentially set up fines if we find violations of odor. I think it's something we probably should have done in the past on this odor thing to get things done.
Okay.
I think it just needs to be, you guys need to be aware that we want to consider that option on our behalf.
Yep. We'll definitely pass that on. Make sure everybody's aware of it.
Because we need to keep pressure on, because it's on now, and I'm just afraid it's going to fall off.
Joe, do you have anything to input on?
I only have one question. It's the question I keep asking, and I apologize, because I know.
Can you get that mic a little closer?
I only have one question. So the gradient layer, it got resampled because of J flags. Have you guys gotten the results back yet?
That I've seen.
The gradient layer?
Gradient control system?
Yeah. It was sampled.
Yeah, it was sampled and it was resampled, J flagged again.
J flagged again?
Yes.
So
Lower
does that-
concentration, but J flagged again. So they're going to continue. I think they're going to sample it again. ESC will sample it again.
Okay.
It was a lower value, but it was still J flagged, which makes
Would you explain J-flag, please? for the rest of us?
it's a limitation of the laboratory. It's a result that's below the detection of the laboratory equipment used for that particular contaminant. So they J flag it. They did get a detect, but it's lower than they can certify using the equipment that they use. So it's very, very low concentration of the contaminant.
The
So
lab
we
uses-
can't really stand behind, the lab won't stand behind it and say, yeah, that's in there, because it's below the limits of their detection.
What is the contaminant?
There was a couple of VOCs. I believe it was a tetrahydrofuran was the J flagged one, if memory serves.
So if constituents show up in the gradient layer, it's the potential that the landfill leaked. But as long as it's a J flag, it's really not something you want to move forward on, because it could very simply be exhaust from the vehicle because the guy left it running when he sampled next to the well. The bottle had a crack. I mean, there's any number of things that can go wrong between a level of detection, which means it might be there, and a level of quantification where we can say exactly how much is there.
Right. Yeah, so they're going to continue to monitor it and pull additional samples.
It's not a bad thing. It's frustrating that they can't make a commitment to DNR with a report, but at the same time, if somehow it is indicative of a leak, it's obviously a very small leak.
Was that area in that area where they had the overflow into the said pond? Or is that a totally different issue?
So where they flowed over into the said pond, there shouldn't be a hydraulic connection to the gradient layer. That should be sealed off. They have pumps. So it's a two-liner system. It's sometimes called a lisimeter. So it's a saturated landfill. It's actually deeper than the groundwater. So there is a layer of crushed stone that they are able to draw water from and often do, and they can sample that, and that is directly below the landfill. It's the entire footprint. But it's hydraulically disconnected once you guys develop that berm, the rain flap, right?
There's a clay liner
Yeah.
over the top of it. Yep.
No. But the groundwater fills it on its own.
But this was underneath the landfill then.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have the J flag at every sampling point, right?
No, just 7 South. Right. Which was opposite of the discharge. Opposite side of the site.
It was,
It was in the opposite side of the site from the discharge, I believe Harvey's referring to. So
Yeah,
the
discharge
groundwater sampling point was on the southern side of the landfill, and the discharge was on phase 7 north, on the north side of the hill.
so you're saying that the J flag was detected on 7 south, that
Gradient
cell?
control, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, the gradient level, it's part of that cell.
Right, yep. The gradient system underneath the cell.
Right, and the section that Harvey's talking about, that's 7 central,
7 north,
7 north?
that's right, yep.
Okay.
Tyler, I know it's pulling back a lot of memory. You ever have that hit before in that area?
No, not that I recall. Nope. Nope.
I don't remember any other gradient hits, J flag, or otherwise.
They wouldn't, a J flag shouldn't come to the committee. You know, it usually is resampled and it doesn't exist again, or it isn't something, it's not something I would bring to the committee's attention.
It's not an exceedance, it's not a hit, so it would never even, it would be in the report, the lab report that goes to DNR,
Right.
but it wouldn't be reported as a problem. So,
But to my knowledge, there's never been a problem detection on any gradient level
Yeah.
sampling.
I couldn't say without certainty, there's a lot of data, a lot of years of data there.
Further discussion on odor issues and activities associated with that to correct it? Okay. Get to the easy part. Review payments from committee funds. Attached to your packet should have been a 2-page finance report. Any questions, comments? Okay. Confirm the next meeting date, October 5th, 5 PM. The big question is where? Landfill or here?
Suggestion,
Go ahead.
this is a beautiful building. I've never been in this one before, but I do like the landfill because it does give us a chance to see what's going on. It's not a landfill inspection, but at least we get a feel for what's going on there. And if there is an issue that, we can take a look at it there.
Okay.
That's just one opinion.
I personally agree with that because of having access to drawings that we've asked to have brought forth. And of course, we don't have access to those here, you know.
Right.
You'd need a dang truck to bring all that stuff here. Other comments, questions on the site? I think we ought to kind of hold off on the site until we see where we are going in Wisconsin, Waukesha County with this very fine issue we have. If things keep going down, 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 I don't have a problem at all with meeting down at the landfill. I will let you know that I do go and meet with the landfill operators, and so does Harvey, and we're in very close areas, much closer than this. This is a ballroom compared to what we do down there. But, you know, we needed to attend to business, and being spread out all over just didn't work for us, so. I suppose we'll find out sometime if the two oldest members on the committee are committing suicide or what. You're third. Okay, so we'll still leave it the 5th, but as to the location, we'll wait a week or two before. Yeah. Any objection? Okay. Communications and any other business as authorized by law? Citizen commentary? Well, we have no one here as a citizen, but
I would like to make a comment that I think that Jake and Chad have made great progress in what they've done since you've been there. I just, yeah, I don't know
well, it's
how you got the funding to do everything you got, but
it's amazing what an NOV will do for you.
yeah, no, you guys have done a good job.
Upon hearing no further comments, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:04.